So a couple years back, I'm walking along, I'm just taking a stroll, and all of a sudden, a guy in a limousine pulls up next to me. Maybe you've had this happen where you're walking or driving, and somebody with money pulls up next to you, and you're thinking, what do they do? Or what exactly do they know that I just don't know? Well, it's been a couple years, and I've learned a lot, and I can honestly say my life's changed 100%. I want to show you how I made that happen. So here's 5 secrets that rich people won't tell you. Secret number one is always trade results for money, never time. See, a couple years ago, I used to work in a factory making about $12 an hour. I would work 40 hours a week, which brought home $480. Of that $480, I still hadn't deducted taxes or bills, and after I did that, I was only left with, about $50 to $100 in spending money, which kept me poor. It'll keep anybody poor. And I always felt like that because I literally was poor, even though I had a full-time job. So what was I limited by? I was limited by time, the fact that there's only 24 hours in the day, energy, I could only work a certain number of those hours, and an earnings cap. Right away, I knew how much I was going to make because somebody told me, hey, you are making $12 this hour that you work. So there was no potential for me to make $1,200 that hour or, $12,000 that hour. Now let's take a look at how the rich do it. See, back when Rich Bob was just starting out, he created a product. In this case, it was a book in which he invested a lot of time, energy, and money into, but it turned out nobody wanted to buy Bob's book, and it flopped and sold 0 copies. So he goes back to the drawing board and says, you know what, I have an idea. I think I have a great shirt design, and I'm going to make a shirt and sell these. So Bob makes these shirts, and he sells them at the local shops, and he sells them online. And what Bob finds is he makes a boatload of cash selling these shirts. People love them. And he thinks to himself, why did this happen? I spent the same amount of time and energy on the book that I did on the shirt. And the answer is because results equal cash, not the amount of time and energy you put in. Secret number 2 is working hard won't make you wealthy. Just ask any hard worker. Back when I was a kid, I used to work on roofs with my dad, and it was so hot you could melt an ice cream in about 5.7 seconds. And I always knew that working hard, wasn't the only thing to success. Because if you look at the country, the hardest workers in the country, ditch diggers, lawn care people, fast food workers, like all of the menial jobs are seemingly menial, really require the most amount of work, but yet they're all still poor. And why is that? I think that's because hard work is only 1/3 of the equation. The real recipe is to think about something unique first. Use your brain first before you put in the work. Then you're going to risk that hard work and time, like, how Rich Bob created the book, or come up with something unique and then take a risk and repeat it because it's going to take more than one effort, but at least the work you put in is going to mean something in the end. This brings us to secret number 3, which is don't worry about failure, you only have to be right once. So to illustrate this, let's look at a good old game of cops and robbers. So we have little green midget here, and he robs a bank, and he gets away with a lot of money. Put on the case is Officer Midget Catcher. So the officer receives a tip and he checks the first house, and nope, he's not there. He checks the second house, nope, again not there. And finally on the third house, he finally catches the robber. What I want you to understand here is it didn't matter if it took 3 houses or if it took 100. The robber had to be right every single time, and the cop only had to be right once. And this is a huge success principle, because if you're failing, you're actually failing forward. You're getting one step closer to success because each time you fail, you know that you only have to be right one time, so there's no reason to just give up. J.K. Rowling used the same principle with Harry Potter. She was told no over a dozen times before finally being told yes. And today, she stands a billionaire, and you can do that same thing too. Secret number 4 that rich people won't tell you is you must take a risk. You have to be willing to give up who you are now for who you will become. See, I was poor, and now I have some money. And what I had to do is I had to risk the time that I had because I worked. I had to risk the money that I had. I was still broke, which was, if you're risking money when you're broke, it's a huge deal. And I had to risk the little energy that I had when I wasn't working. And all of this was for the probability of a reward. And one thing I knew is that if I repeated this over and over, the probability would become higher. But if I never risked my time, I never risked my energy, and I never risked my money, there was a 100% chance of no reward at the end. The fifth and final secret is the more you know, the less likely you are to fail. And this is because business is like a huge competition. Essentially, it's a war which never stops. You're trying to get your ideas out, and other people are trying to get their ideas out. And you're going to be presented with a lot of choices along the way. And the only way to know which way to go when other people don't is by gathering information and by knowing things that other people don't know. And this is going to give you the best chance to succeed. A great example of that is Warren Buffett. He reads 5 to 6 hours a day. I mean, imagine where you'd be right now if you read 5 to 6 hours a day. I'm not saying you have to do that much, but it does enable him to take advantage of every choice presented and every money-making opportunity he's presented with, he's able to capitalize on. So to round out this video, I want to say this. If you're putting in your time, you're putting in your effort, you're taking risk, and you're trying to know as much as humanly possible, you are going to succeed. It is only a matter of time before you succeed. And I hope you liked this video, so if you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more like it, go ahead and give it a comment. I will reply back to any questions that you have, so have a great day.